Welcome back to the channel, everyone. My name is Devin. Happy New Year, and today we're going to be talking about the first movie I've watched in 2023, which is M3GAN. Now, in this video, I'll be going through a quick explanation of the movie, explaining the ending. It's pretty straightforward, but if you haven't seen it yet, come back later after watching the film. I'll also be giving my review, as well as talking about a few talking points, and honestly, this movie was a little disappointing to me. The two main characters in this movie are Katie and Gemma, and I feel the actresses both did very well in this film. After the death of Katie's parents, Gemma, who is her aunt, is now her legal guardian. And she doesn't have much experience with taking care of kids. She even talks on the phone to her friend and says she doesn't even water her houseplants. Gemma works for a toy company trying to manufacture new toys and create new designs. She's basically a designer for the company. Gemma had been secretly working with two other of her co-workers to create M3GAN. At first, the boss hated it. But once Katie was introduced to M3GAN and they showed the boss a little simulation of how it would be, he really loved it. When put in an observation room, Katie and M3GAN have an instant connection, and M3GAN does a lot of cool stuff. She draws a cool photo and they become friends. And M3GAN is a very advanced toy doll. She can tell heart rates, emotional states, as well as just give general information, scientific information, all of that stuff, and even take care of tasks around the house. I was really hoping during this movie that my predictions for what was going to happen in this entire movie wasn't going to come true, but unfortunately it really did. Now, I love horror and sci-fi, but this movie, from the start, I felt it was going to be very predictable. Just like we've seen in several other movies, M3GAN shows early signs that her AI is a lot more advanced than her creators intended it to be. When she hears about death, she starts talking about it, asking if she's gonna die, and this is when there's kind of a shift in behavior. When one of Katie's toy arrows goes into the other yard, M3GAN goes and retrieves it and gets bit by the dog, and then Katie gets bit by the dog as well. Later that night, M3GAN goes and kills the dog. Now, you could tell that Gemma really only cared about her work and not much more of Katie, and M3GAN was kind of that distraction to get Katie away from her, as she just brought Katie to the presentation the next day and was kind of like, oh, do you want to go? And she was like, but people flew across the country for this, so she wasn't really being a good guardian. When it's finally time to show the higher-ups in the company, and I think the investors, what M3GAN can do, Katie starts crying hysterical in the room. She talks about missing her parents and that she will not remember memories of them, and M3GAN saves all the audio that she talked about in one story and kind of replays it, and it kind of wins the hearts over of all the investors and everyone in the company. One of the best parts about this entire movie is just one line that the therapist said, and that's when she was talking about attachment theory. She was talking about when a kid loses someone close to them, like their parents, the next person that comes in who has a strong connection with them is going to be the person who they will have the strongest relationships with. And instead of that being Gemma, it was M3GAN. Now, let me know what you think in the comments, but I feel like that was the main message of the entire film. I feel like that's why I didn't like the film as much as I did, because I feel like I was more focused on that little attachment theory thing than I was about anything to do with M3GAN, because it was just very predictable for me. And the attachment theory that the therapist talked about was 100% true, as when she went to the outside school, she did not want M3GAN to leave her side. And she got all panicky and scared when M3GAN wasn't going to be with her. Later on in the movie, she even slapped Gemma. But back to the story and its predictability for me. You knew that that kid was going to die right away. She rips his ear off. He gets hit by a car, which was a cool death, but I wasn't really surprised or like, oh my god, like, I didn't really get a reaction from it. At this point in the story, Gemma is starting to become suspicious, but it isn't until her neighbor is killed and she looks in the window and sees M3GAN that she kind of figures that something's up. And when Gemma wants to investigate M3GAN and bring her back to the office, Katie is in shambles. She's crying, she's kicking her seat. She basically has lost all control. And that's because M3GAN is like her only friend now, her only partner. It's like she's taken over as her parents. And one of the better parts of this movie for me was the ending. M3GAN is brought back to the facility and they're about to have this giant launch party. They're getting it all set up and M3GAN breaks loose and goes crazy. But right before this, Gemma and Katie have a very heartfelt conversation about how it's okay to have those emotions when bad things happen. And this was one of my favorite parts of the entire movie as well. She talks about how it's valid that her parents died and she's feeling all these things and it's okay to feel sad. And they kind of make up, and this was one of the better scenes in the film. For a movie that focuses on a doll that is going crazy, killing people, and going against its code, I just think it should have had better deaths. The first three were really good, but the last two were kind of eh for me. And back again to the predictability of this movie, M3GAN goes back home to Katie and Gemma, and they get into a massive fight. Gemma is fighting her, and then Katie comes in, and it shows that she has some trust, and then Katie takes Bruce and kills M3GAN. And then M3GAN comes back with just her torso, and Katie kills her again. I want to hear from you guys in the comments. I just got back from the theater. I may have missed a few things, but I think this movie was a really cool concept. Now, I gave this movie a 2.5 out of 5, and here's why. I ask myself this question while watching movies. I say, have I seen this done before? And the answer is mostly yes. There's been many times where we've seen AI turn on humans, go on crazy killing sprees. There have been many times where we've seen dolls go off. Chucky was one of the first to do it, and that's what made Chucky Chucky. I don't know if anyone remembers from Goosebumps, Lily D, that doll. That was scarier than M3GAN to me. Is it a cool concept though? Yes. Could I see this happening in the future? Yes. Like I said before, the best part of this movie is not directly M3GAN, the kills, anything to do with that. It's just the attachment theory that we have technology and we have iPads, we have all this different type of technology, and a lot of times parents just throw it on their kids now and say, you're gonna do this, I'm gonna go do my work, and that's what's wrong with the world right now. So I was a little disappointed, and that's why I gave it 2.5 out of 5 stars. I probably will never watch this movie again. That's kind of how I base my ratings as well. If I'm gonna watch it again, it's definitely above a 3, 3.5. But I wanna hear what you guys think in the comments. Did you like the movie M3GAN? I'll be covering every single movie in 2023, well, most if I can. And I hope to see you guys next time. I do facts, explanation videos, reviews, and I also do interviews. So this is Devin signing out, and I'll see you guys in the next video. Happy New Year.